You can see the 6-inch fixed-bladed knife in his hand. He's already told you he's going to carve you like a turkey.
If you're involved in a gunfight, you're already having a pretty bad day. If your firearm malfunctions on top of that, your day's going to get even worse.
Interpersonal confrontations are a fact of life in today's society. When no other reasonable option or action is available, tactical pistol methods may offer the only solution to personal survival or professional response. This program covers and reviews the basic elements of the modern technique of pistol craft, as taught at the prestigious Gunsite Training Center. Even though these training methods focus on techniques of personal self-defense, the safety methods and firearm handling skills shown in this program will enhance your general shooting skills and performance. Sit back and watch now as we visit the Gunsite Training Center and its professionals of firearms education.
How are you going to survive when faced with that deadly threat in that lonely dark alley late at night? When no one else is around to help you, nobody else cares? Let me tell you how you can win and survive that lethal confrontation. You can use the methodologies taught here at Gunsite Training Center and developed over many years by Jeff Cooper. And we call that the modern technique of the pistol. If you use the modern technique of the pistol and all of the assets that it gives you, you will win and you will survive. The modern technique of the pistol as utilized here at Gunsite Training Center is a cornerstone and principal instructional technique used here at Gunsite. And the reason it is used is because it's easily remembered and it produces results. The modern technique of the pistol consists of the Weaver stance, the presentation or your draw stroke, the flash sight picture or your sight alignment sight picture, the compressed surprise brake or trigger control, and heavy-duty pistol. All of the elements of the modern technique of the pistol will be fully explained in detail throughout this tape. Come join us as we begin. The Weaver stance is the foundation from which we work off here at Gunsite Training Center. The Weaver stance was introduced and formalized by Jack Weaver back in the late 1950s, 1960s in California. Jack Weaver at the time was a LA County Deputy Sheriff, and he used this primarily in some competitive shooting out in Big Bear, California. Let's start with that proper foundation. Let's start at the bottom and work up. Let's look at how we configure our feet. I'm a right-handed shooter. Naturally, I'm going to need my right foot withdrawn from my left foot just slightly. My weight distribution is approximately 60% on my left foot, 40% on my right foot. My knees are slightly flexed. Not bent too much, just slightly flexed. My hips and my shoulders will naturally configure to the angle that my feet are at this particular point. When I draw the handgun to a guard position, I'm going to have a little bit of isometric tension built up even at that point. I do this by pushing from the right shoulder and pulling back with the left hand. When I mount the gun to my eye level and prepare to shoot, I'm going to build up more isometric tension. I'm going to push harder with the right shoulder, and I'm going to counter that push by pulling back with the four fingers of the left hand. This is what's going to give you that isometric tension and enable you to hit targets that you've never hit before in your life. This is going to provide you with that accuracy, that power, and that speed that you need if you want to shoot better, you want to stay alive, and that's what it's all about. Let's use the Weaver stance. Let's be the predator, not the prey.
Presentation is the school term for what occurs between the time you identify the threat, obtain your weapon, and bring it to bear on the target. Another term might be draw, and would certainly apply from a holster. In real life, it may not be a presentation from a holster. It may be from the nightstand of your bed, out of your glove box, from a briefcase, or in the case that we'll be using most of this week on the range, from a holster on the belt. The presentation is your draw stroke, and we teach it on a 5 count. Breaking it down into the counts. On the count of 1, the firing hand takes a firing grip on the pistol. The support hand comes up to the midline of the body and indexes on the torso. The firing grip at this point is critical. We want to have full contact between the firing hand and the pistol butt. The index finger or trigger finger is straight along the frame. On the 2 count, the weapon breaks free of the holster to such a degree that the weapon can be moved forward to complete the stroke. At this point, the trigger finger is still straight along the frame. The firing hand thumb on the pistols that have a mechanical safety are positioned to disengage the safety when needed. On the 3 count, we lock the wrist, bring the muzzle to bear in the direction of the target. On weapons with a mechanical safety, the mechanical safety is disengaged at this point. On the 4 count, hands come together. Support hand attains a position around the front of the shooting hand with the second knuckle proximately underneath the trigger guard. The support arm wants to remain hard against the body, and we begin to create the power that's going to give us a solid shooting platform when we bring the weapon to bear on the target. On the 5 count, we're going to drive the support arm away from the body, resisting the movement of the weapon to the firing plane with the support hand. Safety's been disengaged, finger enters the trigger guard, index is the face of the trigger. Your focus comes back from the target to the front sight, slack is removed from the trigger, and we break the shot. Once the shot's been fired and subsequent shots are fired as needed, we come down through the guard position, assess the results of our firing, finger comes out of the trigger guard and again alongside the frame for safety. Now we backtrack through the presentation to the guard position, support hand comes back and indexes on a median line of the body, and the holster is in position to receive the weapon. Come back, index the holster, and place the weapon in the holster. Once we have the presentation mastered on the 5 count, all we then need to do is to eliminate the stops in the 5 count to make it one smooth, continuous movement. Speed comes from smoothness. The guard position basically is nothing more than your firing position from the Weaver stance, sighted in on the target, ready to go. Taking that position, hinging it at the shoulders. As I lose my front sight, the finger comes off the trigger and I come down, keeping everything else locked in position about till my elbow indexes on my rib cage. In this position, with my thumb on top of the safety, if I have one, and my finger outside the trigger guard, I can assess my predicament. I can engage rapidly if I need to, simply as I pick up a threat by bringing the pistol up into the focal plane. Any mechanical safety is disengaged as I come up on target. I reach the top of my mount and the finger indexes the trigger. At this point, we need to start putting things together. At this point, up until now, my eyes have been on my potential threat or on my target. As the weapon comes up into the focal plane, I need to change that focus, and we're going to start working on that right away to make this an automatic thing to where you don't have to consciously think about it. As I come up onto the target, I've made the decision to engage. The pistol comes into the focal plane, any mechanical safety device is disengaged, finger goes into the trigger guard, engages the safety, and any movement, which we refer to as slack, is removed from the trigger. My focus comes back from the target to the front sight. Now the target is going to go into a slightly blurry focus, as will the rear sight. The front sight is going to stand out sharp and clear. The slack is out of the trigger, and at this point I'm ready to engage. Follow through on that sight. Eye is in sharp, clear focus on the front sight. Slack is out of the trigger. Front sight, slack, press, recover the front sight. Watch the front sight, sharp, clear, slack, press. Follow through on the front sight. Watch the front sight.
In keeping with Gunsite's tactical methodologies, what we'd like to do now is give you several different methods that will allow you to keep your weapon fully loaded at any given time. The first method we'd like to show you is our primary method of doing a tactical reload. Magazine is grasped in a normal loading configuration. The magazine is withdrawn from the pouch and brought up to the base of the pistol. The pistol is then turned in the hand from a traditional firing grip so that you can get bone contact from your thumb on the magazine release button. The magazine is then released onto the palm or heel of the hand and withdrawn between the little finger and ring finger of the non-firing hand. And notice we've kept the spare magazine in a speed reloading configuration. Then this magazine is placed into the magazine well, run in sharply one time. The spare magazine is then taken and put into the rear pocket and saved for later in case we would need it. And this is one method that you can keep your weapon topped off or fully loaded at all times. Another method of tack reloading the pistol might be done in this fashion. We reach back and acquire the proper grip on our magazine that's still in our pouch. We bring it out to the base of the pistol. This is where we're going to differ from the first method that we showed you earlier, how to tack reload the pistol. We're going to take our index finger off of the magazine front, as so, and we're going to take it and lay it along the side. Now you're going to lose a certain amount of dexterity in this particular magazine change or tack reload than the previous method that we showed you. However, this works much better for a lot of people who have rather small hands, short fingers, or they have one of the double stack column magazines that is so common today. We come up to the base of the pistol and we're going to use the index finger and thumb to remove the magazine that's now in the pistol. With the magazine release button, take this magazine out with thumb and index finger, and we insert the magazine that's between the middle finger and ring finger of the non-shooting hand. Once we have it replaced, we take the partially depleted magazine, put it in our hip pocket. Now we acquire a two-handed grip on the pistol and we may continue from here. A third method to tack reload your pistol might be done in this fashion. We reach back and acquire a proper grip on the magazine while it's still in the pouch. We bring it up to the base of the pistol, and this is where we're going to differ slightly from the other two methods that we showed you earlier. We're going to take the index finger and middle finger of the non-firing hand and cross them over the magazine that we have in our non-firing hand, so that we may use our thumb and index finger to remove the magazine that's now in the pistol. And this may be especially useful to you Glock shooters because you'll be able to get underneath the pistol and remove the magazine very smoothly in this fashion. We come up to the pistol and take the magazine that's now in the pistol out with a thumb and index finger, and now replace that magazine with a full one. Take the magazine that's depleted, now put it in our hip pocket, both hands back on the pistol, and now you may continue from here. Now let's talk about speed reloading the pistol. This is primarily competition oriented, but it's still a good useful skill drill that we teach here at Gunsite, and we teach it in a 5-count sequence. It might look something like this. You're shooting. You decide that you want to replenish the ammunition supply that's in your gun. You reach back and get a proper grip on the magazine while it's still in the magazine pouch. At the same time, the pistol is slightly tossed in your hand so that you can get bone contact from the point of the thumb onto the magazine release button. That's 1. On 2 count, we drop the magazine as we bring the magazine up from the pouch. 2. On 3, we bring the magazine from front to rear, flat to flat. Flat of the magazine to the flat of the magazine well. We insert it about halfway, or 2 windows or so on the magazine. That's 3. On 4, we're going to open our palm up and we're going to seat the magazine fully with 1 stroke. 4. On 5, we reacquire our two-handed grip on the pistol. We focus on the front sight, the slack is taken out of the trigger, and now we're ready to deliver other shots if necessary. If I could, let me put you, the viewer, in a hypothetical situation. Here you are facing a very violent adversary about 8 feet from you. He's already told you by his actions and his words that he intends to do you serious bodily harm. You can see the 6-inch fixed-bladed knife in his hand. He's already told you he's going to carve you like a turkey. And even though you know that 80% of people that are shot with handguns survive the situation, you only have the handgun with you. So you're going to have some alternative method of stopping this individual right now. And you only have the handgun, and it has to work the first time. And the way we accomplish this is by doing this particular drill and doing it precisely the first time. And it may look something like this. What you may want to try in this situation that we played out for you, the scenario that I gave you earlier, is you may want to try what we call a failure to stop drill. This simply means that the 2 shots you're going to put center mass of this individual that's trying to harm you very seriously, like right now, and the 2 shots don't necessarily take the desired effect immediately that you'd like to have. So you're going to go immediately to the head and perform a headshot if the head is available.
Modern firearms are manufactured to a high degree of reliability, but anything made by man can and will fail from time to time. Now, if you're involved in a gunfight, you're already having a pretty bad day. If your firearm malfunctions on top of that, your day's going to get even worse. It's important that you know the procedures to go through to get that weapon back in action so you can solve your immediate problem. Now, if you get ill, you go to the doctor diagnoses symptoms and uses that information to decide what you need to do to make yourself well. It's no different here. If your firearm malfunctions, there will be symptoms you can look at and diagnose to give you the remedy that you need to get the weapon back in operation so you can solve your problem and stay alive. The first problem that we'll talk about will be a failure to fire. This could be caused by a bad round, or in some cases, it could be caused because the last time you loaded the pistol, you failed to seat the magazine properly, and you'll have a situation where the magazine's partly protruding and won't allow the pistol to feed around. When I come up and attempt to fire, the problem will be that I'm going to get a click and no other response. Whether it's a bad round or a dropped magazine, the response is the same. Tap the magazine violently to seat it, come over the top, strong, powerful grip on the back of the pistol, run the action, and assess or fire as the case may be. In seating the magazine, now we have a round in the chamber and the weapon is again functional. Another common malfunction is what they call a stovepipe or a smokestack malfunction. The symptom in this case, when I look from my front sight, what I'm going to see is a piece of brass protruding from the ejection port. Obviously the pistol can't function in this situation. What I need to do is get that obstruction out and get the pistol back in the fight. I can accomplish that by getting my hand above the malfunction, and with a violent movement I'm going to wipe that out of the ejection port and clear the chamber for the round that was trying to feed. Assess or fire as the situation dictates. Short of having something actually physically break on the pistol, one of the worst things you can encounter is a double feed malfunction. In double feed malfunction, you have 2 objects trying to occupy the same space at the same time. You'll have one round, either an empty or a live round, in the chamber, and a second round attempting to feed up out of the magazine into that same space which is already occupied. This malfunction is going to take you out of business for a while until you can get it cleared. If you follow a sequence and don't get confused, you can get the pistol back into action in a relatively short frame of time. Now, because you have one round in there and a second round trying to feed, the system is locked up. The weapon has tried to do its job. It's tried to feed the next round out of the magazine. It couldn't do so because you have a round already occupying the chamber. So the first order of business, step 1, is to take the pressure off of the system. And to do that, we're going to lock the slide to the rear. Now we've unbound this mess that we have up here in the area below the chamber. Second order of business, we hit the magazine release, and because it's tried to feed the next round, you may have a situation where the magazine will not fall free. So our second step is going to be to depress the magazine release, grab the toe of the magazine, and rip that magazine free. The third step is we're going to come up, even if we think we saw something fall free from the pistol, we want to be sure. We don't want to have to do this twice. So we're going to come up with the same movement that we do with some of our other malfunction clearances and loading drills, and take a firm grip on the back of the slide. We're going to run that slide 3 times hard to clear any garbage out of that area up in front and get it ready to receive the next round. At that point, we simply grab a fresh magazine, since the magazine might have been the problem, and we tap, rack, and assess or shoot as the situation calls for. The first exercise that we'll talk about is what we generically refer to as an immediate action drill, and we need it to become exactly that. It will clear about 90% of the malfunctions that you'll experience with your handgun, most anything but a double feed. And for that reason, if your pistol fails to fire for any reason at all, you want to get this to the point where it becomes an immediate action drill. Get the problem cleared, get the pistol back in the fight. It will solve a problem with a dud round if you have a bad primer. It will solve a stovepipe situation, such as I've set up here, with a piece of brass protruding from the ejection port. It will solve a situation where you failed to get the magazine fully seated the last time the pistol was loaded, or it's worked loose in the holster and allowed the magazine to become partly unstuck. It will also solve a problem where the slide has not gone fully into battery. I come up, I attempt to fire. For any reason whatsoever, the pistol refuses to fire. I'm going to drive the magazine in with a good hard smack on the bottom, come over the top, grab the back of the slide, big, strong, powerful movements, the kind we want to do under stress. Very violently pull that slide to the rear as far as its travel will allow, and then release it and let the spring drive it forward again. At the same time, I'm going to spin the pistol around the axis of the bore violently outboard or to my right to help centrifugal force clear anything that may be obstructing the chamber. The movement will look like this. Then back up on target, support hand in place, and assess or fire as the situation dictates.
Another tactical aspect that is very important here at Gunsite, and that we teach and we're very serious about, is the application of using the primary hand only. And certainly reality says that you could be injured to such a degree that you can no longer use your support hand to help support the pistol and shoot accurately. So the way we teach this is we teach you to use this primary hand in such a way that you can effectively defend yourself against a deadly adversary, and this is the way we do this.
Statistically, if you're involved in a gunfight, the range is going to be extremely short, the time parameters are going to be pretty tight, and you're probably going to have to stand your ground and just deal with the problem. But statistics should always be viewed with a little skepticism, and you may be involved in a non-typical gunfight. So it may be advantageous to be able to use another position other than standing to add to your tactical repertoire. We're talking about kneeling and prone positions. Now, why would someone want to go to a kneeling position in a gunfight? Perhaps to beg for your life or to pray, but a more useful objective might be to lower your silhouette and make yourself harder to shoot, to put yourself behind some kind of intermediate cover, or to give yourself a more stable platform from which to shoot and increase your accuracy. We'll show you 3 options on the kneeling position, and the first one of which we refer to as braced kneeling. This lets us lower our silhouette, puts us behind intermediate cover, and gives us enhanced accuracy. It's a position you can get into and out of very quickly. To get into it, we take our support side foot and we're going to step about halfway across toward the shooting side foot and about halfway forward in a normal step. At this position, my hand will be on my pistol, and as I draw the weapon, I'm going to drop my weight straight down so that I wind up in a support position much like a tripod with 3 points of support, and beneath the muzzle of the pistol I have my arm, my elbow, my knee, my toe, and strong vertical support all the way down. I push the pistol toward the target, pull back with the support hand, just like I do in the standing weaver position, and I have achieved a lower target profile. I put myself behind some intervening intermediate level cover, and I have a much stronger brace shooting position for smaller targets or longer range. I can get into the position quickly, and if necessary, if I have to change my position, I can also get out of the position quickly and move to another location if I need to. A second option, which serves a slightly different purpose, is what we refer to as speed kneeling. Now, speed kneeling is not an accuracy enhancer. We're not going to brace. It does let us get down behind intermediate cover. It does make us a lower silhouette. Another tactical application might be a situation where you find yourself with a hostile who is in the middle of a group of non-hostiles or unknowns, and you might use this position to change your angle of fire so that if you have a case of over-penetration or a miss, then you'll reduce the possibility of hitting a non-hostile. To get into this, we're going to take that step a little longer, and we're simply going to let gravity do its work, draw our pistol, and come down into a very quick kneeling position, changing the angle of attack, putting ourselves below the individual that we might have to engage. Yet a third variation that essentially came out of organized competition, but we feel has some tactical application, is what we refer to as double kneeling, or California kneeling in some circles, since it came out of competition in that state. And this is simply a matter of, again, lowering your silhouette and getting yourself behind intermediate cover. The advantage that this position has is that it's quick to get into, and it gives us an option of using that cover either high or around either side. To obtain this position, as we draw the pistol, we shift our weight back slightly and let it go forward onto both knees. From here, I can engage this way over an intermediate barricade. If I have something like a tree or a fire hydrant, I can roll out and shoot accurately around either side. It's also a stable platform and gives me a good solid firing position in a very quick period of time. From this position, I can also come back out of it very rapidly, again, if my position is assaulted or if I need to move. Another alternative shooting position is prone, and we teach a very stable version of that here, which we refer to as rollover prone, and the position itself pretty much explains where the term comes from. In a conventional prone position, one goes down face onto the target, which places undue stress on the neck and shoulder muscles as you try to elevate your head to get behind the sights. This position is useful for shooting around low cover, such as a log barricade, the end of a building, or something of that nature. To get down into this, we're actually going to face slightly off from our line of fire very quickly, about 45 degrees. As I draw the pistol, I'm going to drop forward onto my knees, maintaining this alignment about 45 degrees to my line of fire. From here, the pistol comes out. I'm going to go forward, catch my weight with a support hand, and I'm going to drive the pistol toward the target. From this position, I want my hands to rest on the deck, not the pistol, just the bottom of my hands. The support side foot is going to come across the back of the knee of my strong side leg, and this elevates my diaphragm off the ground, places my torso at an angle, gives me solid support once I'm in it, all the way from the heel of my hands, down the arm, down the body, clear down to the extremity of my right toe. This is an extremely stable, solid position. I can change the angle at which my eye picks up the sights slightly by moving my cheek up and down my bicep. I have good solid support. I'm still pushing toward the target. Pulling back with a support hand gives me an extremely strong, stable position from which you can actually shoot easily as well as you do from a benched rest. In the indoor simulators at Gunsite, we take the first step in acquainting you with some ugly truths. When you enter the world where there are obstacles, tables, doors, etc., your whole situation changes. We can't in the confines of this presentation, or even in a regular two-day class, make a tactical master out of you by going through these houses. We're not trying to instill the idea that we're going to turn you into a SWAT operator and you're going to go take down a building full of bad guys. What we do is link a series of problems so that you can solve them consecutively and give you some feel for the kind of problems that attach to having to deal with a world where you have obstacles, barriers, and corners. Now, corners are dealt with in a number of ways, but there are certain fundamentals that you can use to approach these problems. A corner is both a blessing and a curse. It hides part of what you need to see, and it allows them to wait for you to approach. It also conceals you. And the best answer in many cases is simply don't go. If you have to go, then you want to use as much common sense as you can when approaching these things and use it to the maximum of your benefit and the minimum benefit of your potential threat. One of the fundamental principles on which most instructors will agree is that maintaining the maximum amount of distance from an unknown is a sound philosophy. If I allow myself to approach something I can't control from too close, I am going to greatly enhance the possibility that I may get hurt, and I'm going to minimize my ability to respond quickly. By way of demonstration, with this plastic safety gun, I've approached a corner here in such a manner that I've placed myself in jeopardy, and I've minimized the utility of the firearm. I have extended distance. I can deliver force over a great distance with a firearm. But I've chosen in this case to make a bad approach, and I've come up on this corner with my firearm and minimized my distance on the corner, placing myself in unnecessary jeopardy. It's pretty obvious that this isn't a desirable outcome. I've negated the extended range that a firearm gives me and made this a physical confrontation by approaching this barricade or this corner from much too close. Now we're going to back up and utilize distance, maintaining a maximum distance from the threat as we teach, and show a little more practical approach. Don't move. By staying back from the corner, I've given myself time and distance to react to a situation and use the advantage that a firearm gives me to deliver force at a distance rather than provoking a physical confrontation. Spinning off of what we talked about earlier, aside from staying away from a corner, we want to use a technique we refer to as cutting the pie to minimize your exposure to threat. Rather than to enter, say, a room and have to deal with the entire area at one time, we're going to use our movement and our distance from that corner to allow us to take a small piece at a time so that our diminished senses due to stress will be able to deal with what we see and allow us to respond in a proper manner. In this case, the corner of this doorway here, and this is a corner, it's nothing more than a barrier to what we need to see and an area we need to move into. It could be a vertical, it could be a horizontal, it could even be a diagonal barrier, but it's still a corner. And to approach this, we're going to maintain our distance from a possible threat, and we're going to approach this room from the standpoint of taking small bites or slices and dealing with each slice before we commit to the next one. In this case, from a ready position, from the guard position, I'm going to move a small step, and a new vista will be opened up for me. I have no threat here. I can deal with that. I'm going to move again, keeping my distance from that corner, and again check a small bite and see if I have a problem here I need to deal with. As I move, continually exposing new vistas, I pick up something that could be a threat. Now I'll plant that foot and I'll concentrate momentarily on what I have exposed here and see if it's something I need to deal with. Statistics tell us that most gunfights occur in dim light or during the hours of darkness. Now, statistics should always be viewed with a certain degree of skepticism. Hours of darkness for reporting purposes being 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. But a sizable number of these things do occur in dim light situations. Now, dim light and dark are two different situations, and we need to define our terms here. Shooting in dim light is a matter of being able to recognize what it is you're going to have to shoot. If you take this step, you'll have to justify your actions to a judge and jury. And if you can't positively state that what you shot at was recognizable as a threat to you, a big legal problem is going to ensue. Now, you spend hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of repetitions perfecting your shooting skills. And the platform that you build while doing this is the foundation on which your dim light and dark shooting are going to be built. Once you've programmed that appropriate response, if you have sufficient light to recognize a threat, if you can tell that this is a threat to you and something that you need to shoot at, you'll more than likely be able to shoot just fine using the technique that you use at the same time as broad daylight or high noon. This kind of technique gives you a solid platform from which to shoot and allows you to engage successfully in sufficient light where you can recognize your target, because you'll probably be able to see your sights just fine. Now, there are situations where that isn't possible, where the light is such that you're not able to recognize the threat, and in a situation like that we would resort to enhanced lighting. In a situation where you can't recognize the threat, then we bring in a flashlight to help you see your sights, yes, but more importantly, to help you assess your threat situation and decide whether you need to shoot at all. The essence of this is shooting from a solid platform, whether in dim light or with enhanced light in the dark, and being able to deliver accurate fire the same way you do when you shoot in the daytime.
No deadly force decision is ever an easy decision. Knowing what you can do if placed in a life-threatening circumstance can decrease your reaction time and increase your chance of survival. Learning the proper use of a firearm can be personally challenging, fun, and bring about peace of mind, besides increasing your firearm skills for sport events and competition. Professional firearms training is available in most parts of the country. We here at Gunsite encourage you to actively seek the best professional firearms training possible, so you will have the skills of safety, gun handling, and marksmanship. Thank you for being with us during the educational segment of the Tactical Pistol 1 video. Stay tuned now for the dry fire practice session.
You know one thing shooters never get to do enough of? Shoot! We never get out to the range. We don't get to fire enough rounds. We don't get to shoot at all the various targets that we'd like to shoot at. And you know, we've got a cure for that. Here at Gunsite, we teach a training methodology that will allow you to maintain that upper performance level, even if you can't get to the range. You know how we do that? We do that through dry practice. And dry practice is a very, very important part to your whole training regimen. And you know, you can do this training in the comfort of your very own home. To begin our dry practice session, we need to unload the weapon in all magazines. Place all live ammunition into your dry practice container. Dry practice should be done only in an area that is safe. It must meet the safe direction requirement and must be able to contain a bullet if a negligent discharge did occur. Remember to check your weapon one last time to be sure it is unloaded. Mentally enter the dry practice mode. Concentrate on the dry practice drills and avoid all distractions. If at any point you are interrupted, cease dry practice immediately. If you decide to continue after the interruption, go back to step one and start over. Dry practice on the desired techniques for 10 to 20 minutes. Be sure to practice the techniques properly. It does not help to reinforce bad habits. As an added safety measure, you should only use orange practice dummy ammunition for your dry practice. During your dry practice, should you see any other color in the chamber or in the magazines but orange, you should stop immediately what you're doing, determine what happened, and do not go any further. Now you can make ready with the orange dummy ammunition only. Check your weapon one last time to be sure it is unloaded. Draw to guard and only point in at something which will sustain minimal damage should a negligent discharge occur. From the guard position, up, look, slack, press, down to guard, assess, manipulate, and holster. Draw and point in at something which will sustain minimal damage and contain a bullet if a negligent discharge did occur. And remember, do not dry practice in front of a mirror. You have a tendency to look at your reflection rather than your front sight. Two areas of concern that we have during our dry practice are, one, when you initially start your dry practice, making sure that your weapon is totally unloaded before you begin, and secondly, when you end your dry practice, getting it in your mind that, hey, I want to take one more dry press on the trigger before I finish up, maybe at the TV set, the light switch on the wall. Don't do it. That's when we all get in trouble, when we say, one more last time. And we need to keep this in mind. You're responsible for the terminal resting place of every round you fire. So keep your thinking hat on, be safe, and do it right the first time.
The following segment should be used to practice your dry fire stroke from either the guard position or the presentation from the holster. Stand about 3 paces from your television screen. This will mimic a target at about 7 yards. A target image will be revealed to you for a duration of about 2.5 seconds for a total of 6 exposures. You'll hear a tone at the beginning of the target exposure and a tone at the end of the target exposure. After the dry fire shot, reacquire the front sight momentarily and follow through. Assess your situation, visually search your surroundings. Thumb cock the pistol, engage the thumb safety, and repeat the procedure. When you press the trigger, you should be focused on the front sight, and the front sight should remain aligned with the rear sight as the hammer falls. Ready? Let's begin. This time, the target will appear in different areas of the screen. Be sure to make your motions smooth and concentrate on good trigger control. Tracking a moving target in motion requires smoothness to keep the sights in alignment. Practice on these moving targets. Practice dry firing on one target, then move the sights to another target. Again, remain concentrated on trigger control for each target. Now try to dry fire on targets as they appear during a walkthrough. Switch your focus from the surroundings to the target, then to your front sight. Be sure to control your trigger operation. This concludes the dry fire practice session.
You know, we've covered a lot of information on this video. We certainly hope that all of it's been useful to you. But there are two things that you really need to be concerned about when you're doing dry practice safety, and two things you really need to use. One is this handgun dry fire safety target. This is a threat level 3 ballistic target, and it will stop any handgun round. The second tool you need to think about in your dry practice safety are these safety trainer rounds. These are orange plastic dummy rounds. You always use these when you do dry practice. Anytime you press check your pistol, anytime you check the bolt area of your rifle, anytime you press check the shotgun, if you see orange, you know you're doing it safely.
We hope you liked this video and will use the training section over and over again. Watch for these new videos coming soon from Gunsite. Concealed carry pistol, tactical shotgun 1, tactical pistol 2, mental conditioning, tactical carbine 1, and tactical walkthroughs. For the finest quality in small arms training, call or fax us at Gunsite Training Center, 520-636-4565, and our fax number is 520-636-1236. We also welcome visitors to our internet website at www.gunsite.net.